Roki Sasaki has started cutting down his options. He eliminated a bunch of teams. The Dodgers are not one of the teams he eliminated. They're still in the hunt with two other teams. We'll dig into that, talk about some interesting comments Dave Roberts had about the lineup and the rotation, and we will talk about the Dodgers and what they're doing for help with the Flyers and all that. So let's get live on Locked On Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Dodger fans, this is Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks to our everydayers for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. And thanks to those of you who are with us live here on Monday night. We appreciate all of you. Remember, this show is free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. And you can make it easier on yourself by subscribing wherever you're watching or listening right now. Subscribing helps us out a lot, so please do that. If this is your first time with us, my name is Jeff Snyder. That guy next to me is my co-host, Vince Samperio. Vince and I are both lifelong Dodger fans, just like most of you. We've also both spent a lot of time covering the Dodgers in the press box and the locker room, so we bring you the smart fans perspective on our boys in blue every weekday morning. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed, win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And Vince, let's get started here. Want to welcome anybody who was just watching Clint and Kevin over there on All Dodgers with Clint Pasillas. Appreciate Clint. You know, we try to coordinate it so we don't step on each other's toes. So we lined this up with the Rams playing on Monday night. We know that it was a busy night for LA sports. And so I want to make sure that all our Dodger fans can get all the Dodger talk they want without it stepping on each other's toes. We will talk more about that Rams game a little bit in the third segment today. But the big news, Vince, today was Roki Sasaki didn't make his decision, but he did make his decision about a lot of teams. We first heard the Giants were out of the running, and then other teams started trickling, the Yankees and the Mets and the Rangers and the Cubs and the D-backs. And ultimately, by the end of the day, it's just the Dodgers, Blue Jays, and Padres left in the running for Roki Sasaki. Anything surprise you about the goings-on today?
No. We expected Dodgers, Padres, the Blue Jays. Seems a little bit random. And, I think I've seen more than a few tweets and things about how, is it a running joke that teams players keep keeping the Blue Jays and then not choosing them ultimately. Based on everything we've seen and heard from Roki's camp, you don't think the Blue Jays would make the most sense, but you never know, I guess. The Angels didn't maybe make the most sense for Ohtani, and that's what ended up happening. So we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, not surprised. We've gotten info that there's been second meetings with the Blue Jays and the Padres. We haven't had that info reported for the Dodgers, but with Sasaki already being in LA, I got to imagine that he has met with the Dodgers. We just haven't heard anything about it. Or, maybe there was a lot going on with Fires last week and they're going to meet this week. I don't know. But regardless of it, the Dodgers are in this, which means that, they probably met or have some understanding of what's going on.
Yeah, apparently Sasaki met with the Blue Jays in Toronto, met with the Padres in San Diego, threw at their stadiums for both teams, with both teams, played catch. Maybe somebody just said, "Hey, Dad, you want to have a catch?" And he said, "Okay." But there was a lot of drama on social media when the video leaked out of Roki throwing at Petco Park in Padres gear. It reminded me, I was just I don't follow college football very much and follow high school football even less, but the other day I went to BYU, and one of the top high school football players committed to BYU the other day, and I was looking at his Twitter timeline, and like 4 tweets down from a month ago, it's him in University of Oregon gear from his visit to Oregon. Like, this is team, when players are being recruited by teams, the teams give him stuff. And he's going to put on the Padres hoodie and throw or whatever. He probably won't throw at Dodger Stadium, since Dodger Stadium is a construction zone right now. But that doesn't mean anything. If anything, maybe it helps the Dodgers case. Sorry, our stadium's not available, because even though we just won the World Series and have the best team in baseball and everything, we're also spending $100 million to make our facilities for the players even better. Like, it's all part of the sales pitch. And I was thinking about this today, speaking of sales pitches, like if you Darvish, he's like the big selling point that people keep mentioning for the Padres. Well, he and Darvish are really close. Like, what would Darvish's sales pitch sound like? So, oh, you got to come to San Diego. It's a great city, great fans, great organization. They're committed to winning, blah, 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 blah. And Roki says, oh, is that why you chose the Padres? And you says, no, I chose the Cubs. Like, even their number one sales pitch didn't pick the Padres when he was a free agent. Like, it just, but yeah, like you said, the Blue Jays don't make sense at all. Like, they made sense with Ohtani because they were apparently willing to give him the same monster contract that the Dodgers gave him. And Toronto is a very international city, huge, Asian population, Japanese specifically. A lot of things about the city of Toronto make sense. Very few things about the team called the Blue Jays make sense, unless, like, somebody asked me today, how confident are you the Dodgers are going to sign him? I said 95%. And the other 5% is allowing for the possibility that Joel Wolf has been blowing smoke when he talked about what things are important to Roki Sasaki. Because based on everything we know from Sasaki's agent, nobody makes sense like the Dodgers do.
Yeah. Nobody makes sense other than the Dodgers for probably most free agents, other than guys that play first base or other positions that are, held down by a future potential Hall of Famer, and DHs and, right fielders and second basemen and wherever Mookie's playing that day. But, I don't know if I share the same confidence just because I don't know. This is probably, we heard directly from Joel Wolf, but ultimately, it's going to come down to Roki Sasaki and what he wants to do and what he decides. And, I would give a little more than 5% leeway for a player to have a random feeling or something happening or whatever. But I do want to say that, I'm cautioning against fans that are maybe falling the other way because of all the reports coming out of the Padres and, obviously the video of him throwing, the reports that, he had a dinner and he wants a close-knit, family situation and blah, 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 and all this other stuff. That could have happened the same with the Dodgers. We don't know. Like, there hasn't been any reports of anything with the Dodgers. They could have all sat and had dinner in the same way. And, maybe he threw somewhere else. And, like I said, we know that he's in LA when he hasn't been home back in Japan. And, there's a lot of things that have happened or could happen without us knowing. And I feel like that's obviously the case here, because why else would the Dodgers be finalists if they were one of the teams that didn't get a second meeting or some kind of situation where he met people, talked to people, and, got another sales pitch.
Yeah, with him being based in LA or his agents being based in LA, it's different. Like, he traveled to Toronto. That's actually news, and then from Toronto, he flew to San Diego. Okay, that's news. You can track those flights, if nothing else. We know that people love tracking the flights of free agents, or at least trying to. Yeah, he can meet with the Dodgers at any time, either has or will. And like you said, we knew he had this meeting in San Diego with the Padres. We just have video evidence of it now. There's nothing about, he was willing to throw a baseball for them. That doesn't mean anything. Like, it just means that part of his meeting was, hey, let's go out and have a catch on the field. And, that's.
He could have thrown for every team to try to get maybe one team has feedback for him or something. And that's what he's looking for.
Yeah, it means nothing. We don't know anything more about his likelihood to sign with the Padres than we did before, other than the fact that the Padres are one of the three teams, and so are the Dodgers, so are the Blue Jays, theoretically. I will absolutely eat my shoe if he signs with the Blue Jays. One little thing, when all this stuff started leaking out, like, oh, wow, he's eliminating teams, maybe we will get an answer on the 15th when he's first eligible. I still think that's unlikely, because whoever signs him is probably going to want to try to trade for as much pool slot as possible, even though he's not going to make the decision based on money. But, if he says, Dodgers, I choose you, now get me as much money as you can, the Dodgers are still going to do that. They're going to say, okay, well, now we know, let's trade, whoever. I'm not going to name names, but, let's try to get some pool space, cap money, whatever you want to call it, so that we can give more money to Sasaki. So I still think we're probably end of the week, maybe even beginning of next week, closer to the 23rd than to the 15th, when he officially signs. But we also might find out if he does eliminate the Padres and Blue Jays. We might find that out on Wednesday, and then it's not official for a few more days after that. So it'll be an interesting week for sure as far as Roki Sasaki news. Definitely got more than I expected to on Monday.
Yeah, the one thing that was in one of the articles in The Athletic that was interesting when they talked to an anonymous, I think front office exec or someone, and they were talking about trading the international, pool money or whatever. That guy did say it would maybe be at like a premium. So, maybe there would be bigger names than expected. But again, ultimately, if you're not going to spend that money on a 16, 17-year-old kid, you might as well get something of value. And the Dodgers have a lot of things of value just in different ways. And if that's the case, we'll see what happens.
Yep. That will finish our Roki talk for today, but probably not for the week. We'll probably have more on him later this week when we come back around and talk about Dave Roberts. Dave was on with Alana Rizzo and our buddy Clint Pasillas earlier today and had some interesting thoughts about the lineup and the rotation. So we will dig into that. So thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen, and please keep it Locked On Dodgers. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same-game parlays, and so much more. I'm looking at the NFL odds. You would think once you get to the playoffs, it's all good teams, right? You're not going to have big favorites that get, there still are. The Chiefs against the Texans. The Chiefs are minus 450 favorites over the Texans. The Lions are minus 560 over the Commanders. So still some mismatches, you would think. And the good news is, even if you're wrong about it, you make your $5 bet, and even if you lose that bet, you get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed because you don't have to win the bet. Sometimes when we do FanDuel ads, you have to win your first $5 bet. Not right now. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $200 of bonus bets, win or lose after your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Hey, we are back. Thank you again for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. Thanks for being an everydayer. If you're not, it's easy to become one. Just watch or listen every weekday morning. Be sure to check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles over on YouTube. And for your second listen, be sure to check out Locked On MLB with our buddy Paul Francis Sullivan, a.k.a. Sully. And remember, you can go beyond the podcast and become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. Text direct with us, just a few bucks a month. There's a Discord server so you can talk to other Dodger fans, Locked On Dodgers fans, all of that. So check that out. And be sure to check out our buddy Clint Pasillas. I know I'm not here to advertise for Clint, but Clint is my friend, and Clint is very good at what he does. He does his channel, All Dodgers with Clint Pasillas, which a lot of you were just in with him a minute ago. And earlier today, he did his other show, which is Dodgers Territory, which he co-hosts with Alana Rizzo. And they had special guest Dodgers manager Dave Roberts, two-time World Series champion Dave Roberts, on as their guest. And it was really interesting, about 15-minute conversation, really interesting stuff. And they asked Dave Roberts specifically about the lineup. They said, you signed Ha-Seong Kim, traded Gavin Lux. What does the lineup look like? And Dave's answer was, well, that's a good question. And it's one that I'm glad I don't have to answer right now. And basically his answer summarized and paraphrased was, that's what spring training's for. We're going to go and see. And he specifically mentioned Tommy Edman's versatility as making a lot of different possibilities. He said, he reiterated Teoscar Hernandez in right field, Michael Conforto in left field. They are the starters. And then so that leaves center field open. He said Tommy Edman could be the center fielder, but you still have James Outman and Andy Pages who are in the mix there. Ha-Seong Kim in the mix at second base. But Tommy Edman is also a Gold Glove second baseman. And so that's an option there. But one thing that was really interesting to me that Dave said was that he hasn't seen Ha-Seong Kim play since last March when the Dodgers played against him. And so he said, I'm excited to see him play, to get to know him. And so, we saw a lot when the Dodgers signed Kim that, he is the second baseman, especially a couple days later, they trade Gavin Lux. Oh, yep, Kim is the second baseman now. And if that's the case, it's news to the Dodgers manager, because it seems very likely that a lot of people will play second base for the Dodgers in 2025, Ha-Seong Kim being one of them, but not the main one.
It makes sense when it comes down to, you could look back at a couple years ago and think, the Dodgers don't always go into a season with someone unproven. And you could look at a couple years ago and Miguel Vargas was, starting at second base and hadn't really proven himself in the major leagues. And it happens here and there. But for the most part, especially the way the Dodgers are built now, like, you want to have a lot of established players. And we've talked about how you can have a lineup with 8, above average major league players, and then maybe an experiment or unproven or rookie or whatever else as the 9th player, and that's fine. And I think that's kind of where it's at right now. Like, you have 8 guys that are average to above average offensively, defensively, all around. And then you have, the second base question or short center field question, depending where Tommy Edman's at, when it comes to Pages, Outman, Kim, at this point, Chris Taylor, as long as he's still on the roster, Miguel Rojas, there's a lot of different ways to go. And I think the Dodgers are going to just figure that out. And unless someone clearly steps up or they make another move before spring training, then that's really what it's going to be like. And you'll be fine with that. Somebody will either emerge, or you'll find, Pages continues to mash lefties, maybe not hit righties, improves enough in center field to play center field, and then Edman plays, second and against whatever, and you move people around. I think that's ultimately what it's going to be when it can be, and then it would just be further reinforced if they do sign Kike Hernandez, because at this point he's better than Chris Taylor and would improve the roster.
Yeah, and I do still think Kike is likely to re-sign with the Dodgers at some point. And yeah, it is important to remember it's a long season. Sometimes we look at the guys who played for the Dodgers, the team that just won the World Series, and the season that just happened, and it's like, wait, Taylor Trammell, and some of it was more on the pitching side in 2024. But Nick Ahmed, these guys like Kevin Biggio. Oh yeah. It was some dark times there for a little while. And so, yeah, all these guys are going to get chances probably. But the lineup on opening day is very unlikely to be the lineup in game 1 of the NLDS. And, for a lot of different reasons. But another interesting thing that they asked Dave about was the 6-man rotation. And Dave was a little bit non-committal. He specifically mentioned that Blake Snell wants to pitch every 5th game. But he also acknowledged that Tyler Glasnow is probably better suited to a 6-man rotation. Plus, you throw in Ohtani and Yamamoto. There's definitely, and the guys coming back from injuries. Dave acknowledged that 6-man rotation makes a lot of sense, but also hinted that it might not be a true 6-man rotation where they might, which makes sense. If you have a day off, you might skip your 6th starter, or you might say, all right, you know what, Yamamoto, this time through, we're going to skip you just to keep, guys who you do want to control their innings or whatever, or just give them a little break. If you have days off and back-to-back weeks, you could theoretically just skip 1 start for a guy and give him basically a full injured list stint worth of rest while keeping him on the roster. And like we talked about before, once Ohtani has enough innings pitched, so he's officially a 2-way player again, they have that roster benefit of it is kind of an extra roster spot. And so it might not be a true 6-man rotation, but it definitely sounds like the Dodgers are doing some version of a 6-man rotation in 2025.
Yeah, and as it pertains to Ohtani, obviously that's one of the biggest reasons why they're going to a 6-man rotation, and Ohtani probably not pitching until May. It serves them it serves them easier to have a 5-man rotation in April, because they have at least 1 day off every week, and I think 2 days off, or 2 weeks with 2 days off. So like they can get by with 5 guys to start the year, or 6 guys, but in 5 slots. If they go like piggyback with some other people, they'll basically have a month to kind of figure out what they want to do in terms of the other 5 besides Ohtani. And obviously every month will be a little bit different in terms of days off and different things, but you can have a 5-man rotation, but still treat guys like they're in the 6-man rotation if you use days off and spot starts and different ways to go about it. The Dodgers are a lot smarter and can plan a lot better than we can in terms of plotting things out. I'm sure there's even a way to have a 6-man rotation, but Blake Snell throws every 5th or whatever 5 days he wants, and they just move everyone back or forward, or whatever it is, probably more back than forward. But there's different ways to plot it out. A lot of it's going to come down to health at the end of the day once you get into the season and moving forward, and who's good. Like if you have, if Bobby Miller and Decimé and Tony Gonsolin are all good, then you're going to have to figure out different ways to handle that, whether it's bullpen, whether it's trades, whether it's, whatever is the case. Because if you have, 7, 8 guys that prove them, or 6 to 7 guys proving themselves before Ohtani starts pitching, and then you add Ohtani to the mix, you can't carry 8 guys at a time, but you can move people around.
Yeah, for sure. And even Blake Snell, like a 6-man rotation would be 28 starts per starter. Blake Snell's only had more than that twice in his 9-year career. And both of those years he did win the Cy Young Award. Both of those years he was awesome. But it's not like Blake Snell has a history of being a workhorse. So those are the only 2 years that he's had more than 130 innings pitched too. He is a guy who, he wants the ball every 5th day, but realistically, he'll probably benefit from a 6-man rotation too. So that'll definitely be interesting to see how they implement it early in the season, how that adapts over the course of the season. And it was interesting the things Dave Roberts had to say about it. We're going to come back in a minute. We're going to talk a little bit about the fire relief efforts. The Dodgers and 11 other pro sports teams are joining forces to make some donations. We'll talk about that, talk a little bit about the Rams game and the city of LA and all that. So thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen, and please keep it Locked On Dodgers. We are back. Thank you again for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen. Thanks for being an everydayer. If you're not, please become one. Go beyond the podcast and become a Locked On Dodgers insider at joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. Check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles on YouTube, etc., etc. The Dodgers, I guess, with all the fires going on in LA, things are still going on. First, I want to start this segment by shouting out our friend Blythe. She's an everydayer, and I found out tonight she lost everything in the fire. She and her husband and 4 kids, they are all safe, thankfully, but their house has been destroyed, all of their stuff. And so, this is the first person I know, Blythe, I've met at the stadium a couple times. And she's great. And first person that I know personally who I've found out lost everything. So it's definitely hitting hard, and our thoughts and prayers are with Blythe and everybody else affected by it. Obviously, we found out a couple days ago that Fanatics and all the LA sports teams are doing team branded LA Strong shirts. I don't know if it's just shirts or other merchandise. I only saw the shirts, but
I only saw shirts.
But all the proceeds from that is going towards different organizations, relief for this disaster. And then we found out on Monday that those same 12 teams, the Dodgers and 11 other teams, LA area teams, are combining to donate $8 million to the relief efforts. We also know Freddie and Chelsea Freeman are donating, I think it was $300,000 to a couple different organizations. Chris Taylor's foundation is getting in on it. I'm sure that other players will be. And actually, that was another thing Dave Roberts talked about when talking to Clinton Alana, was that he's heard from a few guys who are kind of waiting to figure out, okay, where can I do the most good? And I think that's important to remember. Like right now, we are in the thick of it, and it's not like any of these players have, or even any of these teams have, a bunch of water lying around to help fight the fires or anything. Like, it's going to be after the fact. Right now, it's on the firefighters and the people fighting the fires trying to get things taken care of, and then will come the recovery. And that's when some of these guys will be able to do some real good. But so I'm sure we'll see more individual Dodger players involved at that point, and probably the Dodgers involved on a more specific level at that point. But it was good to see that those teams came together. They even let the Angels pretend to be from LA for purposes of this.
And the Ducks.
And the Ducks. Yeah. Well, you can't have the Angels without the Ducks. It's like we're right down the street from each other, across the street. But yeah, it was it's good to see, and it's just, I don't know, it just makes you wish that you could do more,
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to, even now when you see in LA, like all the donation centers, like they're turning people away because they have either too much stuff to handle or not enough people to sort through it or whatever it is. So you do have to find different ways. And again, there's different ways to help. And, for the Dodgers right now, like you said, it's there's only so much to do right now. There's still fires going on. The next couple of days, there's supposed to be some, there's some wind warnings that could, continue those fires longer than they need to. And you don't know really, like I say, there's not just water lying around to go help out, which is really the help. And, there's not, these Dodger guys probably aren't going to go on the front lines, realistically. And, that's really the only way to get through it. After the fact, rebuilding communities, the Dodgers have been part of the community. We've seen them build things in communities, and I'm sure they'll get in on that, and other Dodger players. And, we'll see a lot moving forward. If there's one thing LA is good at, it's getting together and helping people out. So.
Yeah. And we've seen, the Rams played tonight, and it was supposed to be a home game at SoFi. That didn't work out. Obviously, too much going on in LA. And so they moved it to Phoenix, Glendale, I guess. Is that where just right down the street? I know it's the same exit as if you're going to Camelback Ranch. And so they moved the game there. The Rams won. There was a lot of talk on the broadcast about Los Angeles and everything that's going on there. Matthew Stafford talked about it in the post-game interview, about things that people have been going through. And it's kind of
also a bunch of Dodger players there.
Yeah. Bobby Miller, Gavin Stone, Alex Vesia,
Gratterall,
Gratterall, Emmett Sheehan was in that picture.
Yeah.
It was
I think Mookie was there, but not with
not in the picture.
Yeah.
Mookie had his own box.
Yeah.
It was good to see LA come together. It's kind of interesting when it is sports related like this, because the Chargers play in LA too, and they lost on Saturday, and nobody really cared. It's and a lot of LA sports fans aren't fans of the Rams or the Chargers. I would guess there's as many Raider fans in LA as there are either of those teams, because you're a Raiders fan, and people my age, when I was growing up, the Raiders were the only team in LA. The Rams were called the LA Rams, but they played at Angel Stadium in Anaheim. The Raiders were LA's team. And then when I was in high school, both the Raiders and the Rams moved. Raiders moved back to Oakland, Rams moved to St. Louis. And now, they both moved again since then. But, but still, I feel like sports is a good opportunity to bring communities together. And if you're, I don't know, I can't speak for you. I'm interested to know, but, as a Raiders fan who I heard a rumor the Raiders didn't make the playoffs this year. And so did you find yourself tonight, were you rooting for the Rams? And if so, did it have anything to do with LA?
I've been pretty vocal about not necessarily rooting for the Rams most of the time. And I don't feel I went to 3 Rams games this year, and it just doesn't feel like a connection. And obviously I'm a Raider fan, so that's a big part of it, but I just don't feel the connection to LA. Like, it doesn't feel like LA. It just feels like a team that plays in Los Angeles. And that's kind of, I would imagine, a general feeling among people that aren't Rams fans. And I wasn't rooting against them like I normally am, because I don't care about the Vikings. So, if it would have been a team that I have some general interest in, or a player I have general interest in, I don't know if I would have been rooting against the Rams, but I probably wouldn't have been rooting for them. So it's just a little bit different. But, any support we can get in LA, I'm not going to say no to it. But even though if I don't personally feel connected, like when someone says, oh man, the Rams are doing it for LA, I don't personally feel connected to that, but I'm going to sit this one out in terms of actively rooting against it.
I respect that. And sometimes these things backfire. Back in 2017, after Hurricane Harvey hit Houston really hard, and everybody's like, "Oh, the Astros deserve this World Series title." And I was kind of on board until they cheated to beat the Dodgers to win it. And like, come on, there's limits here. And and then after 9/11 in 2001, the Yankees were in the World Series, and the D-backs just beat the Yankees. It's like no respect for that. So in the end, it's just a game. It's just sports. But it was kind of all of the Rams coaching staff, everybody having on the LA Fire Department hats. All the Dodger players in the pictures were wearing those too. Definitely a strong go LA vibe at that game. And, as Dodger fans, whether we, like you not particularly a Rams fan, like me, I don't care about football, but I watched the game and I enjoyed it. And I enjoyed thinking about my LA people, and that was good. And I'm excited to see, obviously we need to get all this under control first. And I hope that the weather will cooperate, and let them finish these fires. And then I'm excited to see the city, the teams, everybody come together to help rebuild and help overcome all of this. It's obviously going to be a long road for a lot of people. But that's, I don't know what cheesy cliche to say after that to end that sentence.
Yeah, there's again not much to say, and even if as I've been checking on people in LA, like people I know that live closer to the fires than I am, it's luckily I only know one person directly affected by it, and it's someone I've reached out to them and talked to them, but there's really nothing to say. Like it's you see the visuals and it just doesn't make sense, and well, like I said, the city will rebuild. The Dodgers will be a part of that. There'll be other people a part of that. And, we'll just, if anything, the Dodgers being World Series champs and World Series contenders once again, that'll play more into the LA feeling, I feel like.
Yeah, for sure. One last thing, BC asked, does Jeff like any other sport besides baseball? I like almost all the sports. I don't care about any sport other than baseball. I watch way too much baseball during baseball season to put any sort of passion into any other sport in the off season. My wife and 3 kids deserve an off season, so I give them an off season. But I like all the sports. Went to a basketball game last week. Sports are fun. Go local sports team. So that'll do it for us today. You got anything else, Vince?
Nothing else. A couple more days till we could potentially hear about Sasaki, and potentially another week. Who knows?
Yeah, we shall see, and we will be here to talk about it no matter when it happens. Thank you to all of our everydayers. Thanks for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. If you're not an everydayer, it's easy to become one. Just watch or listen every weekday morning, or the night before every weekday morning if you want to be here live with us, as we are most days. Be sure to subscribe wherever you're watching and listening right now. Make it easier to find us, and obviously subscribing helps us out a lot. Hit the like button on this episode. Leave your comments in the comment section, even if you're in the chat. Comments help too. All that engagement helps people find us, so please do that. Be sure to check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles, the 2 24/7 streaming channels on YouTube from the Locked On Podcast Network. You can go beyond the podcast to become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Locked On Dodgers. Vince is on Twitter at VinceSense91. I'm on Twitter at Snydog, and both of our DMs are open over there. You can also email us at lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or send us a voicemail or a text message to 323-863-LOCK, 5625. We are here every weekday morning. We hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car or sit on your couch, tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. We will talk to you tomorrow.
Have a good one.